Hello, here Metanekoi. And as you can see, I'm going to talk about a concept I call visual consciousness. And you might think, well, visual consciousness. We can just Google that. Well, let's Google that. And you get all kinds of articles about visual consciousness. It can be manipulated in the context of recognition and your visual cortex being able to process all the incoming information from the eyes, from the nerves, from the optics. And I will say this is going to be quite related to it, but from a different vantage point. A more personal vantage point that, as far as I can see things, everyone, really everyone, should be able to figure out on their own that this is the case. But let's take a look at the proper. Yeah, nice. Yeah, please. I'm gonna change up some of this stuff with OBS, so give me a bit of a minute to decrease some of the stuff here, and at least I'm not that glaring. Look, I'm not the glowing guru that you think that I might be, due to what I'm about to tell you. The thing is that I myself, if I look at visual consciousness, it is something that differs in a bit from what the scientific literature is going to tell you what it is. But it is really related. What I'm going to tell you is about that if you see something that is already an object within the screen in your brain, anything, but the thing is that is actually already conscious, sentient, so to speak. You might say, well, okay, yeah, the literature says it. I'm talking not about definitions, scientific definitions. I'm talking about you. If you do it properly, if you concentrate hard enough, if you're really hyper-focused, at certain times you should be able to feel that consciousness, connect to your visual field, so to say. You might think, what you mean, connect to my visual field, as a visual consciousness, to whatever I see. Let me get some of this stuff from when you meditate really hard, or when you have hallucinations, or if you're really tripping hard on psychedelics. There's this thing that they call the mind expansion, where you connect to everything around you, everything you see, everything you hear. I'm actually talking about that. And you can experience that without psychedelics already. It's more difficult. It's really more difficult. But how should I put this? It's easy when you're taking psychedelics, or if you've had years of training on meditation. It's really easy to connect to the visual field and feel that there's consciousness there. You might think, wait a minute, but that's becoming one with everything and understanding that you are part of the whole. That's one interpretation of the phenomenon that people experience. Decently spicy. That's a concoction of some bubbly water, some ginger cordial, if you can see this. But that doesn't make it that spicy, because I can handle that. And then there's some vodka, and you think, oh, there's some vodka. Until you look at the bottom here. Those are 2 peppers. 2 really, really, really hot peppers. But, sorry for the interruption, but I had to tell you. So, I only take a little bit of the vodka because it's really spicy. It's really, really, really hot. But coming back to the visual consciousness, yeah. The thing is that I'm able to connect to my visual field and experience partly its consciousness, really feel it daily for at least a few weeks now. And it has to do with what I've discovered is, HPPD. I'll get that for you. New tab, HPPD. Okay, so. Hallucinogen persisting perception disorder. It's something that, yes, if you look at that stuff here, I do see that. I do see the visual snow. I see brighter colors. Colors that are more intense than they were years before, so to speak. I would say about 110 to maybe 120% as intense as previously, especially red lights. And the thing is that even in the past, when I first had this experience, which was at that time quite unsettling for me, I would say that I did feel it. Even before that, I did feel some connection with really bright lights. Some weird mystical connection with bright lights, sparkles in water, even before using psychedelics. And also being able, when I was still a Christian, I prayed a lot and I really concentrated a lot, and somehow I had some really strong visions where I saw a ring from made out of gold, and I really felt the weight of that ring, and I couldn't explain it. I had other visions of electronics, really detailed. Floating around in space around a planet, or maybe at least one planet, and yeah, I could never really explain this, but now I can, because that's the thing. Hallucinations, visions, dreams, thinking visually, it's all the same thing with regards to what you see, how you connect to the visual field, and that you feel it, even just looking. Because technically speaking, how we see things is that we have a controlled hallucination of our environment in our head based upon the signals that come in order to try to comprehend them so we can recognize things quite quickly. There's an automated system going on. And you might think, okay, so you were talking about consciousness in the visual field, but now you're talking about the technical stuff. Yes, but you can go on the internet and you can find this out. I mean, I'm not going to do that kind of homework. If you know, you know. If you don't know, go ahead and Google some of this stuff. At least the hallucination. Well, then that's okay. Okay, visual field. At least let us take a look at that. So, you can keep on going and oh yeah, you can't see when I'm over the yeah, but you you can see that. Oh god, yeah. But the thing is that the visual field is something that what I'm referring to is not the visual field as in what your eyes give you, but the internal visual field that is actually you, where the visual field, is it this? The visual field is that portion of space in which objects are visible at the same moment during steady fixation of the gaze in one direction. Technically true, but also not. I mean, this stuff. God. Oh, how I hate that. This part. It's true, but it's not totally true. I'm talking not about the visual field as defined by the eyes, the pupils, but the internal visual field that you actually perceive, that you can see, where you have all of the lights appearing. And that's internal. And that internal field, I say, has visual consciousness. It is the visual consciousness, so to say, or the consciousnesses. It depends on how you define things. And I have connected to it a lot of times. Well, actually, everyone is connected to their visual consciousness at all times while they are awake. Even if they're not awake, they are still connected to it. There's a connection between the inner consciousness, the I, the ego. Even if people say the ego is a bad thing, no. The ego or the I and the awareness are connected to the visual field, and I'm saying that the visual field does have a kind of rudimentary consciousness that you can feel if you concentrate hard enough. If the intensity of your concentration is so hard that it really impresses onto you that it actually has consciousness, that you can feel that consciousness. It's easy on psychedelics if you don't mistake it for being one with the cosmos and everything and being one with God. I don't believe that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that it couldn't be true, but I'm just saying that my interpretation of connecting to whatever I see is not that everything is one and I'm one with everything and I'm actually totally just imagining that I'm a separate being. No. I'll be honest. I've always had this problem with this whole stuff of being one with everything that I say. that's not right. It's not how things feel for me. I do, I do agree that I feel this oneness with what I see, but the interpretation is different. My interpretation is I am just really strongly connected with the visual field in the visual cortex and surrounding areas. And I feel that consciousness, or that field of consciousness, that matrix of visual consciousness, I feel that. Even now, I to some extent feel it. And it does give rise to the whole feeling of being connected with everything, just like with the hearing. But, well, that's actually, it's a similar story. Even there, whatever you hear is already a conscious experience. You experience a kind of consciousness. That's why when you really concentrate really hard, or you trip really hard, or you meditate really hard, something happens, something mystical, magical, and really, really mysterious, where you connect, and at times you can get lost somewhere in what you hear or what you see, and you really feel it. One way you can actually experience is by really looking around and you see a really nice sunset or a really nice view of some really great valley, and you just take the beauty in and you just think, whoa, I'm really here, look at this. And that's where you feel it deeply. That's where you have that connection with your visual field, with your visual consciousness. But most people don't understand that because they're so overwhelmed by the experience that they don't get that connection. They don't understand that connection. They don't think, oh, I'm really feeling my visual consciousness while I'm looking at this really amazing view, and it's really representing it so strongly, because that's what it does. It somehow is impressed primitively, and it just boom smashes you as the eye, as the awareness, with all of the sensation. And you go, oh, whoa, that's so beautiful, I'm so impressed, but yeah, you really feel there. But you don't understand, but most people just don't understand what it actually means as well. The meaning, the meaning beyond the immediate meaning. Yes, you're really there, but why are you there? Why weren't you there before? What is the difference? It is, as far as I can see, and hear, and think, it is the intensity of what you experience. The intenser it is, what you experience overall, the more impressive it is, and the more you feel connected to whatever you are experiencing as sensations. Whether it be visual, whether it be your hearing, your feeling. You might think, oh, okay, that makes some sense, but what do you call consciousness? Well, because you feel it. You feel something there, a presence in what you see. That's what I mean with consciousness. That presence that you feel, whether it be really faint or strong or really overwhelming. And that's what you would call a part of the mystical experience. If you really feel it strongly and you really connect to whatever you see, like I do now. And while not as strong as in some of my trips or at other times in the past few weeks, I can just do that now. And it has to do with my visual hyperconcentration, what you would call meditation, what I normally do. I just look. In the beginning, when I started this, I was just looking in front of me and was over-concentrating like that. It does help a lot. But then eventually, somehow, I was able to concentrate on somehow more and more areas, but also bigger areas. And the thing is, once you master this, you can just look at things and really get it in, over-concentrate so broadly that you've unlocked some techniques that you need to go to Buddhist or Zen masters or gurus in order to unlock them. At least this is my preferred way of meditating and getting into contact with another part of me that previously I knew was part of me, but it didn't come in. Because I do have some problems with dissociation. I'm kind of dissociated from my other parts because of past trauma, because of being somewhat depressed, and being tired all the time doesn't help either. It also leads to a lot of dissociation. If you ask me, I think one of the big problems for a lot of people is, I'm also including myself especially, but I think a lot of the problems of depression and not having lust for life is not getting enough sleep, being overstressed, living in a shit society. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah, visual consciousness. And you might think, can I do that? Of course you can. You already have contact with your visual consciousness. You see something. Unless you are blind. Then, you'll have to do with your auditory consciousness. And let me say it this way. When you are moved by music, really deeply moved by a beautiful piece of music, whether it be sad or really pumping, the same thing happens. You get connected, you have a deeper connection to your auditory consciousnesses. You feel them and you are really influenced by them. Your mood changes just because they interpret sound in such a way that they give off feelings and emotions which actually change you. How you think, how you feel, how you act. There's a reason why when you look at the screen and you see a really sad scene, but it's beautiful, and the music is really sad, that you can cry at times. Even if you just think, okay, it's a bit of a shit movie or shit series, but I do feel something, and I can't stop it. It's because of the consciousnesses that are rudimentary there, visually, auditory, and even your emotions, and that just influence you, that you connect to. And you might think, oh, you're totally out of your mind. Well, test yourself then. If anything, let's say, why question? Question it. Question yourself if you do or do not feel anything. Because if I look at, for instance, colors, hear sounds, there's always some kind of feeling and emotion attached to it, even if I cannot really place it. And where does it even come from? Oh, it's in there now. I think it's already in a different part of consciousness, and it's only being put through into my consciousness, and I can either accept it, I can analyze it, I can just swat it away. Yeah, I can do whatever I want with that. But one thing that actually does happen is I see it, I hear it, and I will do something with it somehow. It will influence me somehow. You might think that's not really a test for consciousness. My question is, what is a test for consciousness, for actual consciousness? I'm not saying consciousness like we have, but a kind of consciousness where you can feel that it is there. And I will tell you this, if you feel that something is there, that you connect to whatever you see, and you have this connection to things around yourself, why is that connection there? Why do you feel that connected? I mean, to you psychonauts and those who meditate, why do you have that connection? Oh, it's because everything else has consciousness. Prove it. Oh, I feel the connection. Yeah. I'm giving an explanation that actually just says, oh, wait a minute. Why couldn't it be just another part of your brain being conscious? Oh no, that couldn't be. And then there's those people who will say, but you haven't really proven that there's consciousness. Thing is, I've had enough experiences to know that I am dealing with my own visual consciousness, with a different part that in the past I have connected to as well, but since I've been using 1PLSD in order to do some research, I've had some really deep experiences, and the psychonauts are actually correct in, yes, you do connect with everything you see, you feel, you hear, etc. around you. But they're incorrect in assuming that that what you connect to is the actual object outside of your body. No, it's the object representation in your head that you connect to, because that object is conscious, because it is part of the processes going on here. It's the interconnectedness and the feedback loops that make the consciousness, as far as I see it. And that's, yeah, why it happens like that? I don't know, but that generates the qualia that we experience in sound, in sight, in light, in whatever we see, hear, and feel. That qualia is already the consciousness we experience. That's stupid. Pooh. What? Painful, a bit hot. Actual real firewater. Also, I'm experiencing consciousness. And so, yeah, so are you. This is a way of connecting the scientific and rational and analytical with the mystical, emotional, feeling, intuition, in a way that I would say gives everyone what they want, but also gives tells everyone also, yeah, you're correct on this, you're also incorrect on that part. Because there is consciousness that you actually connect to. There is the consciousness all around you, and you do connect with everything around you. That's affirming the mystical side, but also disproving are also where the more rational people would have objections to. Oh, you don't really connect, you just think you do. No, you do connect to the things around you. But the scale is not that, but it's in here, all in here, all in the body. You connect to everything that's else in mostly in the brain, and also to some extent in the heart, in the stomach, because there's also consciousness there. Everywhere there are nerves and there are connections, neural connections, and interconnections and feedback loops. That's where you get consciousness. If you have sensations that are generated, that are perceived, everywhere there are perceptions of sensations, there is consciousness that is actually in them. The perception of sensations is consciousness, as far as I see it. And that is actually the deepest part. The qualia are the most basic, most rudimentary parts of consciousness. They are the myriad forms of consciousness buzzing around in our brains, generating the whole spectrum of our experiences, our perceptions of sensations. And if I say that the visual field is conscious, I don't just mean it's one consciousness. It is a consciousness, one, but it is a multiplex of many consciousnesses. Because the part here and the part there, while connected to each other to some extent, are still apart from each other. And they do have a localized consciousness, but it's a consciousness field. Think about that. You are embedded in what you are embedded in what you see and what you hear, and that's all consciousness. But, and well, that's where the mystics are totally right. The mystics are totally right about that you connect to everything that you see, hear, and feel. Where the scientists are right, the biologists, the neurobiologists are right, is that that's all happening in the brain, and there's a difference between the representation of the scan of Dio and the actual Dio object. I can go wax all philosophical on that. Maybe I'll eventually do that. But there's a difference between this here and what comes into my eyes and your eyes as photons, is being processed and then being projected on this visual screen, which is conscious. So yeah, I found out by meditating, by doing my own techniques, by using psychedelics, the mystics are right and the scientists are right, but in a way that is both actually really cool, but also pisses off a lot of people, which I actually really like. And you might think, oh yeah, but how do you know this? Well, I have a PhD in physics, so I know a bit about science. So I'm what you would call not a hardcore not totally a total, to the fullest extent materialist, but my viewpoint is pretty hard materialistic. But what did I want to say? Yeah, I'm kind of materialistic. I don't preclude any possibility. I do not preclude that there could be any kind of divinity, or that the cosmos could be full of consciousness. The thing is, I don't know. I cannot distinguish between the consciousness that I perceive and that is actually just different parts within the body and the brain, and what might be out there. I cannot distinguish that. So if I would ever trip, for instance, and I would talk to God, I'm quite sure that's just me. My visual consciousness projecting something, and my auditory consciousness also projecting something, and whether it is actually just generated by whatever parts here, or some extra dimensional being is actually really technically there's no way for me to know which is which. That's your philosophy there. And with regards to mysticism, I think we are selling ourselves too short by saying that we are just finite. Consciousnesses being part of an infinite sea of consciousness, which we would call God or the cosmos. I think we are people who say that are selling themselves so short. It's also a good way. I'm not saying it couldn't be true. I don't know. I don't think so. But you believe whatever you want. But I think it makes life much less precious. I think knowing that you are the source, that your brain, that your visual field, these things are the things that paint the world in consciousness, in all the colors, in all the emotions and feelings. In a kind of conscious and living canvas. I think that's much more mystical, mysterious, and really cool. Oh, but it's just, it's not the real thing, etc. No. But it is based upon the information that is gleaned from the eyes, that is converted into electrical impulses and being processed here and being turned into living, conscious color and light. Magically. In really, really great and good ways. You might think, but, why don't you want to believe? Because deep down, intuition and instinct tell me I only have a limited time on this planet. I will eventually die. You might think, but aren't you just a mostly hardcore materialist and mostly a hardcore atheist, and you reject God? Yeah, I do reject God. I'm not saying there couldn't be one, but I don't need one to actually live my life in a good way and have some kind of purpose. And that's my challenge. Understanding that there is an end to my existence, and that if I get forgotten, so be it. If I die, my consciousness most likely, all of this is just poof, gone. And then, if I'm not remembered in 1 or 200 or 300 years, so what? I won't be there to be sad about that. I'll be dead, I'll be gone. Gone with the wind. No one to being able to annoy me not being able to annoy anyone else. And you might think, oh, how can you? Well, I'm able to transcend certain things because I've had what you would call ego dissolution, ego deaths, for even before I used psychedelics. I've had my personal crises. After I was done with being a Christian. And then eternal life. Oh, I have to come back. I don't really give a fuck anymore. Because if there's an eternal life, there's an eternal life for everyone, including me. If there's no eternal life, there's no eternal life for anyone. And we only have each other then. In this, actually wonderful place. It's just that humanity is such a shit show. And you look at it and I just think, why do we do all these kinds of dumb things? I think spirituality is actually accepting things for what they actually are. Even if what you figure out on your own tells you, oh, it's really like that. A lot of people tend to snap inside, have a psychotic break, and then they go to La La Land because they can't handle the truth. Most people can't handle the truth. Especially the harsh truth of, most likely there's no God. Most likely there is no afterlife. But I want to have an afterlife. It could be. You think that because of what? If there's no afterlife, everyone dies. There's always this, but I want to go on. A hope to cling on to life. And I just think, how foolish. What makes you so special? All these animals, all that other life. Oh, they're not special enough, but I'm so special enough. I think it's pure narcissism. Oh, I want to survive forever. And then, I want to come back. Why? Even the Buddha wanted to just dissolve into nothing, into the eternal sea. Well, there was a way of saying, I'm actually done with the damn suffering, I don't want to come back to suffer anymore. I don't believe in reincarnation, but I do see some understanding of I'm actually done with the damn suffering. And I agree, I'm also done with the damn suffering, with the pain, the tiredness, and being in bodies like this and having cravings all the time. But I don't believe in being. I don't believe in. It's not. Let me say it this way. It's possible, but personally, I don't believe it. Personally, I just dismiss it as grasping at straws, as not wanting to deal with the reality of life. And also when pain and a bit of suffering become enjoyable. How does that work? Yeah, 45 minutes. Oh my, I can ramble on. I don't need fucking psychedelics to ramble on. I mean, yeah. Visual consciousness. Look into that. Look into visual meditation. Do the concentration. Just look ahead. Really, really hard. Concentrate like that. I've done some stuff with psychedelics where I had some looping going on. Well, here's my journey. You know all about the whole stuff with regards that you can have some visual hallucinations. Yeah, I've had that on shrooms, on truffles, on 1P-LSD. It's all nice and dandy. Also, all the fractals that you can see, all the other stuff. That's your average stuff, especially when you have to come up. You can just look and somehow it just. Use the right words, less words, more precise, that is concise. A friend of mine, he doesn't like that sentence, but it does apply to me. So, what I'm meaning is, when I in 2024 last year, when I took some 1P-LSD, the come up after about half an hour, 3/4 of an hour, is always difficult for about at least 30 to half an hour to 1.5 hours long, and often I just lay down because I'm either tired or I just can't stand anymore. At least in the beginning. And then you look at things, you have some music going on, and I don't know what happens, but I see patterns, I hear the music going on everywhere. I feel like the music is running through me, like it has a mind of its own. I feel like whatever I see, everything is actually having a bit of a mind of its own. I get blasted out of my mind somehow, and I would say it's a kind of ego dissolution then. But I do feel the connection with whatever I see and hear. I see and hear and feel the connection, and also the real weird emotions that go on. The whole. It's really difficult to describe, but I've had it so many times that I remember it, and I would say it's really one of the things where I know this is actually part of the real classic psychedelic experience. I've had it on shrooms and truffles as well, but I'll say this on 1P-LSD, which is actually, as far as I know from what I've heard, really alike and akin to LSD and how it works. It's really overwhelming. Even on one tab, it can be overwhelming already. Let alone if you take more. Then it can be really overpowering. But yeah, you have these visual connections, and once you're done with that, then the fun begins. Then you can walk around, do some stuff a bit, but I just really get dumb. I dumb down. Honestly, I want to do some stuff with music or programming. Programming is barely possible, at least when I started the whole stuff in last year again. But yeah, how should I put this? I get really dumb. I mean, really, my IQ drops. And you might think, how do you know? By doing some cognitively taxing tasks. And it's not that I totally don't understand anything anymore, but cognitive execution wise, I'm becoming a. It really happens. I think it's because of the whole not restructuring, but the added pathways, and it's so much to handle that it's like you have a computer with a reasonably good graphics card and a reasonably good CPU. It's really great if you have such simulations that you do. But then here comes a really blazing, really impressive and really taxing video game. You do that as well. What happens? The simulations slow down, and can be at times suppressed. It's a bit like that. Your cognitive simulation, your cognitive logic, it really degrades. Then, in last year, I've had many experiences where I was just looking around. Somewhere in, was it May or beginning of June, I started looking in the mirror. Experienced psychonauts will tell you, and other people who are more on the esoteric, occult, and spiritual side. Don't look in mirrors when you are tripping or doing some spiritual or some meditative work. They're kind of right and not. If you are really prone to being spooked, yeah, you can get spooked. If you're afraid of weird things happening, I would advise against that. But if you're really curious like me, you just stand in the mirror, you look in the mirror, you see all kinds of shifting going on. The whole face is actually changing all the time. Depends on the dose, of course. But I've had doses where it was really shifting, and at one trip, I don't know what I did, but I was looking in the eyes and it was weird, and let's say oh, is a minute. I have to. Yes. I'll show you this stuff. Magic Eye, stereograms, and auto-stereograms that feature auto-stereograms, and well, there's a way you can look at these things, and there's a way you can look at these things where you can overlap the similar parts of the picture, and you can view it in 3D. You have the parallel infinite look overlap, where you normally look like this, but then by adjusting to an infinite view, you do it like that. So you go to the parallel look, and you can overlap the repeating patterns, and you see something. Well, another way you can do it is you can quasi a bit more, and you also can overlap like that. I can do both. It's once you figure the trick out, it's kind of easy. It's not always even. It's not. At times I've had some problems doing the parallel looking, but I can do both. So what happens if you look at the mirror in your own eyes like that? And you look long enough. Well, already, even if you're sober, you can get pretty really gnarly results. If you look long enough, it starts to become pretty weird and unsettling at times. I know that as well. But if you're on psychedelics, oh boy, are you in for a surprise. I've seen the Eye of Horus, the Eye of Providence. That kind of imagery, but then yellow and really weird. Just, yeah, like this. Precisely a bit like that, but then changing, shifting. Eye of Providence. Now, let's see. Here we go. Also, this stuff, all of this stuff. And you might think, really? It's that easy? Just some psychedelics and overlapping the eyes in the mirror like that and making one eye out of two in the middle? Making an autostereogram out of your two eyes into one, and then that's the Eye of Providence, the Eye of Horus, this symbolism? Yeah. Secret revealed. Some smoke. Oh, and mirrors. You might think, oh, so that's how you access. So that's how you. It was part of the path of discovery, but it was really cool doing that. Well, another thing what I did is I even have the videos still here on that channel, so you can look through. I've made a lot of videos where I took the camera in selfie mode. I hope you can see what I'm trying to show you here. Yeah. Huh? Oh, it's the wrong way. Oh, actually this is the right way. Yeah, it is. Selfie mode. And I did the same thing with the camera. Also, the Eye of Horus experience. Also, my face shifting all the time without the whole autostereogram overlap for my eyes. Then I started to think, wait a minute, there's a kind of delay. I could even do it in the monitor here. But I thought, wait a minute, there's a delay here. But I'm still seeing the Eye of Horus effect, and still, well, I forgot to mention the really important part. When I was looking in my own eyes, like that, cross-eyed or parallel-eyed, and made the Eye of Horus, it felt like I was looping into myself with regards to consciousness and sentience. I thought, wow, cool, it was actually really a kind of reflection going on. I really couldn't explain it at that time. it was after I've done some of this stuff often enough where I thought, wait a minute, I'm still doing that stuff, I'm still having a kind of effect with one eye going in and out, but it's not a mirror. It is delayed. It still has a connectivity. And then I remembered there was a time where I laid on the ground, was looking up at the ceiling. I concentrated so hard, I felt like I was looping into the ceiling, back into my own consciousness, and through, just like with the mirror and my eyes. And eventually it stopped. But it felt like I had connection to a consciousness, to my own consciousness. Even with some eyeballs looking at the ceiling. And I thought, but wait a minute, the ceiling isn't a mirror. I wasn't looking into my own eyes. I was only looking at the ceiling. How can that be? I'm starting to figure out how I figured it out. It was just really concentrating hard on whatever I saw that looped the consciousness. But how can consciousness be looping? Because it felt for me while I was doing it with the eyes and also to the ceiling and in the mirror with the eyes and the camera, etc., that I was actually connecting to a consciousness, to my own consciousness somehow. Yeah, and actually that's true. Technically, there is a connection in both in two directions. One is the information going in. That's a different way, where this information is being connected to the visual field itself. So that's how I could loop. Just by being really concentrated, but just by concentrating hard on what I saw. And I tested this enough times as well. I even had times where I just was in the bathroom looking at just a tile and I saw patterns appearing and I lost myself in thought just looking at the patterns, at the stripes. Amazing, really amazing. And yes, I've had my videos where I connected to my visual field in different ways, and it has a consciousness, it has a sentience, it really, you can feel it. I felt it. One of those, a few of those experiences were what you would call a connection to everything moment. I am everything, everything is me moment. I've had them even before on truffles, but I didn't understand it at that time. I was also whacked out of my mind at that time. Oh. But yeah. And if you say, "Oh, it's just your visual," no, it's just your visual field. No, it's all of our visual fields, all of our auditory fields. It's all of that. All of that has consciousness. It generates by processing the information. The information processing is the consciousness, and you can feel it. You can connect to it. I connected to it. you can connect to it. Hopefully, there might be people who are unable to connect to it somehow. Well, actually, if you can see, you are already connected. But the deeper connection, the more, oh, I really feel it. That might not ever be on the level that I can do it. I don't know. Genetics, intelligence, whatever. It could be anything. But I haven't heard anything about it. And the thing is, a few weeks ago, I talked to a friend of mine who has some background in psychology because of his art studies that he did. He told me, I told him, yeah, the visual field has consciousness, and he told me, well, that's common knowledge. Well, it was I meant in the sense that I felt the consciousness. He didn't understand what I really meant. He thought that I was talking about the more academic, the more total scientific, neuroscientific approach, where, oh, it's just a system, it has a certain kind of consciousness, technically speaking, which we can talk about in sentience and how it can be tricked and fooled, etc. That's what he actually meant at that time. I meant it as in, hey, I've felt my visual field having consciousness. I meant it, but what I said was, oh yeah, the visual field has consciousness. And he said, oh yeah, that's what people know. Well, about a week later, maybe 1.5 weeks, I asked him about it. I told him what I experienced, and he said, oh, that's cool, that's impressive. I don't know how you did it, but that's really special. Yeah. So he finally understood. Yeah. The thing is, one thing that actually does help me is that that while I do perceive things as objects, etc., I can also, it's not always automatic, but I also see everything as just being a tapestry of colors, intensities, and shapes. Just general shapes, to some extent, of course. So it's something that friend of mine also has learned to do. I think for doing certain things, I think it's because of meditation. I have to ask him again, but it's something that I taught myself to just look at things and interpret them not just as objects themselves, but just as a whole canvas full of patches of color and light intensity. Light intensity and color. Where even black or dark things have a certain kind of feeling to them. That's what I cannot really tell. That's what only that couples when I'm much more really tired or really down or just occupied with some other stuff where I don't really feel all the lights, the colors, and even the darkness, the black darkness. But yeah, anyone can feel this. Anyone can. Everyone is already connected. If you can see, you are connected. If you can hear, you are connected. You have the connection, you can deepen it, you can become much more attuned to it. And yeah, doing that actually is what I actually really like to do. I think it can help in establishing some healing deep inside, because yeah, having this coming to God moment, being totally in tune with everything that you see. Yeah, I've had those moments, too many moments. It's just. I think my analytical, I'm a bit too analytical, or the other parts of me want me to understand all of this. And you might think, oh, but what do you mean with the other parts of you? Yeah, not just my visual field, but my subconsciousness, or better to say, my left and right brain core consciousnesses, big core consciousnesses. The one who was previously more dormant and not that dominant, not that present, wants me to understand. We want me to understand, because if I have a visual consciousness, an auditory consciousness, the awareness consciousness, the ego consciousness, that's already at least 4 consciousnesses. I can't say that we are a collective of consciousnesses inside of this brain and body. And the subdivisions are even further. How it actually really is done, it's really difficult to self-understand. But we know that we are we, and that I am part of us. And you might think, oh, this is some weird stuff. Yeah. But it's different than your normal talk about mystical stuff, psychedelics and spirituality. This is more analytical, less woo-woo, but also more, I would say, organic, more about consciousness and connecting to yourself in a way where I would say it's, I'm not saying harmless, but it's a way that might help with healing. A way that is much more honest towards yourself and towards others, towards the truth of the world. Because I wanted to know, and we wanted to know. And we were already on our way of connecting deeper to each other. Before psychedelics already. So, yeah. I've seen a lot of stuff by other people who've done meditation, but mostly psychonauts doing psychedelics. And I've seen a lot where I just say, yeah, I've experienced that, but my interpretation of what they experienced, of what I experienced myself, is different than what they say. But I've seen and experienced most of the things. I've had my deep connection to everything, moments and periods. Yeah. And it's not just the pure LSD stuff, it's also LSD and weed. And I know from experience how these experiences can overwhelm people. I know from deep personal experience. And while I haven't had what you would call a DMT breakthrough experience yet, the whole the whole of the hallucinations, that the visual field becomes pure hallucinations and I do not see the outside world anymore. also known as what the psychonauts and spiritualists will call the real world. Well, I don't believe that. I haven't had that experiences. I haven't had those deep experiences where I actually really met the elves, but I've had some. DMT, I've already talked about that in my life trip reports. I've seen I've seen similar things to this and to this. Some of the things like that, a bit like that. Geometric. Please. I've seen not things like that directly, but I would say. I'll say I've seen things a bit like this, but then more horizontal and more Aztec-y at times things. I and not totally blocking everything out, but overlaid over the rest of what I saw. I've seen a bit of these kinds of fractal patterns overlaid over what you would call normal reality. Those kinds of hallucinations, things like this a bit, but then changing all the time and evolving. And my personal theory is it's visual looping somehow. Some kind of not the short ones where you have just some fractals, but for the real geometric the hyperspace geometric fractals that becomes 3D, then the loops go longer and deeper and have more possibilities of loop connections somehow. And that's how I explain it. It doesn't really feel like I'm looking at anything else than just myself. The connections here somehow. But it's really fascinating to see. It's really hypnotic. Yes, it's a way of exploring your own visual consciousness and playing around with it and testing. Haven't seen something like well actually I've had some I've closed my eyes at times one time, and I didn't have, well, not something like this totally, but something a bit similar. And it really changed wild colors. And I thought, okay, whoa. I've had some really fantastic experiences, but I never saw something like that. I would say that if anything would resemble anything like that in the behavior, it would be not this half, but this half. But because I already have connected to that other half, or I have connected to that part of us, why would I need to see this? If the trickster's already connected. There's no need for this. Maybe there's something that's still there, but I need to connect to, but in my deepest LSD and weed combination, it was on the Psytrance wave. It felt like I was really connected rhythmically with everything, and somehow everything was infinitely fractally looped rhythmically inside of me, and I was really a sense of like, it felt like home, and it was so overwhelming. But I didn't have these kinds of visuals. It was more like I saw normal reality, and then rhythmically I saw red, white, black, all kinds, some other colors, fractals of me being interconnected with myself like that in infinity somehow. And it felt like I was there. I think other people would have said, I experienced the cosmos. I had more Elysian-like how do you bliss feeling? Bliss, but also all kinds of feelings, experiences while having LSD and weed before, after, and also even one time while I was just a bit tipsy, and yeah, I don't know, it was also really overwhelming, like I was connected to everything, like I was totally looped in my thoughts, and but that one time with that psytrance party, I was really, that was even somehow even deeper in some ways. Yeah, actually, yeah, it was so much more overwhelming, but it was so different. It was. The problem is with these kinds of experiences, it's really difficult to compare how deep it actually is, because you just don't know. You're just connected to yourself to the us. The us is connected in various ways, and it's always different each time. Always different enough that you peer through yourself in different ways, and it just feels different. But it's fucking cool. I think it's fucking cool doing it like that, and analyzing it, and being there as you, as us. We were there. Kilroy was there. Kilroy was here. Yeah. Yeah. Hyperspace light. No, hyperspace light. I'm going. Yeah, I've also shown this stuff before. Dodic. Yeah, I saw something. No, not similar to that, because that's just a cube. But you can compare it a bit to this. Well, actually, I've had some experiences where I imagined my other people's lives or my lives, and it felt a bit like this in my mind's eye. Like, oh, there's a person here, there's a person there. In each cube, there's a person with a life, and I saw all of that, and of course, it was just my imagination going wild. Of course, it only was that. Infinity. Oh, come on. I want the dodecahedron. That's a cool one, actually. Uh, now, these kinds. That's a bit more like it. But that one looks shit. Or something like that. Yeah, that's also one really great. Oh, the dodecahedron. Yeah, so, yeah, yeah. Look at this one. This one is actually it's a shit. uh, oh, this one also really. Oh, that's what that's the kind of stuff where I would say yeah something like this, but then yeah, a bit like this. Yeah, but then really looking, maybe like this. But that one sucks. Oh, this one is really. This one. These are some really great photos. A bit like that. That's what I saw at times. Saw overlaid over what you would call normal reality. But it was just the inner workings of my of my visual consciousness being reflected into itself, into my mind, etc. How it works, still have no idea. The only thing what I do know is when I want to imagine something like a pink elephant or a purple turtle. You can imagine that to some extent, of course. It actually works a bit like that. But then it's auto-generated and it just goes brrr. Yeah, this actually looks cool. This is a shit. Oh, this is actually a really great one. But yeah, the out of focus stuff you don't see. Yeah, it's really in focus and it's overlaid and it actually looks so cool. Yeah, it's really really great. And yes, you do feel the connectedness to to whatever you see. And at times I've had times with some of the also tripping on L1P LSD where I had 300 micrograms and at the peak moments, at the peak hours, I really connected to my field, to my visual field, and I felt at home. And it seemed to me it felt me and I felt it. Yeah, really cool stuff. And yeah, you might think, but I wouldn't have. You wouldn't have expected something like this. No, you wouldn't. It's a bit of a blend of some of trying to explain not away the mysticism, the mystical experience, but explaining it in such a way where you say, actually, that does sound enticing to view it from a different way, because in my eyes, I've heard the whole stuff of the whole mystical experience, like you connect to reality, to the real consciousness, to God, to all of existence, and you understand you're one, and then all these people, the YouTube gurus will tell you, yeah, that's the actual reality, and I just think, how do they know? They're just telling you whatever they think is true and teaching you, oh yeah, this is actual real truth. But how do you know for sure? And now comes my analytical process, because I don't want to believe all kinds of bullshit just because some guru tells me. And there's a lot of variations. There's also the variation where people tell you, "Oh yeah, if you think that's not really you, no, the thinking is just the mind, and the mind is just an illusion, and it's the pure awareness. It's real, and the mind is just making up some excuses, and it's not really real, and it's trying to struggle." Do you know why I hate this? Or better to say, why we hate this. Because we have found peace in each other. The ego and the awareness have become buddies. We have become buddies. And you might think, why are you talking like that? It's to delineate between me and us as a collective, because we have contacted me and I am their spokesperson. I'm our spokesperson. The awareness and the ego should work together in my eyes. They should become one in purpose. No, I wouldn't say totally one in purpose, totally one in what they want, but working together as a collective, just like humans, as humans work together. Wouldn't that be something really great? And also working together with your visual consciousness. And I'm actually really experiencing a bit of the connection to my visual consciousness again. It's so damn fucking cool being able to do this. Sober. Well, with a bit of drink, of course. Yeah. I really hate the enmity between the awareness and the ego, the both of the halves, and all of the consciousnesses working together. You are not your thoughts. Not totally true. The thoughts are part of you. It's more complicated, nuanced, but in effect, the thoughts that you think are part of you. Which means that you have responsibility for the thoughts that you think. To yourself, mostly. Foremost. Oh, you're thinking some bad thoughts. Yeah, that's what we call mind control by other people, trying to tell you what you can or cannot think. I'm kind of really hating that kind of stuff. Oh, you should only think this and this and this, and this is the truth. It's the same thing that people tell you. It's also a kind of mind control when people tell you this is the actual real truth, and thinking is actually really bad. Oh, really? I think that thinking is actually really great. We think that thinking is really great. That having the awareness is great, having the thinking is great, connecting to oneself is great, also knowing that one is not totally one block graph of pure consciousness and pure awareness. I don't even understand the whole stuff of pure awareness. What even is that? When do these people come up with these kinds of damn dumb constructions? Oh, pure awareness. Oh, the ego is bad. Or the ego is actually not so bad, but it's actually a bit useless. No. The ego has its place. The awareness has its place. The visual consciousness has its place. They all have to work together. I mean, I can't say, my finger can't say to the eyeball, to one of the eyes, I don't need, I'm not you, I can function without you. Go away, done with you. That would be stupid. If this is the awareness, well, this is a really great one, actually. Those people who tell you the ego is a bad thing or is actually a stupid thing and it gives you all the thoughts. First of all, what even is a thought? Most of the time, people will tell you it's what you. It's either emotions, feelings, but also words, sentences, even images that you see. Some logic even at times. And you think, wait a minute, but so feeling something is really bad? Oh, but you know the feeling. No, but the feeling is part of me. The emotion is part of me. That word that I hear in the inner voice is part of me. But the inner voice is also what I would call sound. So having sound that is somehow generated internally without using my my larynx, my vocal cords, is a bad thing? Is really bad to do that? Automatically? Oh, it's a function of this. I've seen some of those videos by people who tell you that having inner thoughts, having an inner dialogue, is really bad. I'll admit there is some truth to what they are saying. But that's most of the time when you have something that's actually not that good for you. There is partial truth to it. They are right, the incessant chatter that just keeps on going, doesn't stop, and at times is really worrying or actually distracting you. At times it's not that good because it is excessive and incessant. Thing is, I count my inner thoughts welling up all the time as well, so I know what they're talking about, but I still disagree with them. I agree with them having some more control and not always letting all of it bubble up all the time. But the thing is that my problem also is with they're presenting it like, oh, it's a holy grail, and if you do this is really great. So you should never think. Also, they are transferring words to you, aren't they? So they are using the kind of thought process. They are externalizing the thoughts. So if someone who's against having thoughts or incessant thoughts is having a lecture for 15 minutes, 90 minutes, or whatever, and babbling on, Isn't that also incessant talking and thoughts, but then externalized? So the ego inside must be silent, so the big ego out there can speak to you and tell you what you should or should not do? How does that work? What's with their awareness? Why don't they shut the fuck up? Oh, it's because they're teaching. Oh, because they are the wise guru. Uh-huh. Yeah, right. So you have to listen to them, watch their stuff, and read all their stuff that they're writing down. But it's what I would say condensated thoughts, transmit flowing, spoken thoughts, written thoughts, because it comes from somewhere, and it ain't coming from the awareness, it's coming from the ego. That's one of the little dirty secrets that they are not telling you. But I am telling you that. So you can think about it, and your awareness will agree with your ego. This is some kind of bullshit they're telling you. Just like mine do. Yeah. Just like those people who tell you that if you have a perception of a consciousness, that you have a kind of feeling bond with whatever you see, and you feel that it has a kind of consciousness. Oh, that means that everything, that you are one with, that you finally realize that you are one with everything. That's the only interpretation that can be. It couldn't be that it's those internal connections that you realize in those, and that there's weirdness going on there. Couldn't be that. Could never be that. Because that's materialism, and that's bad. You see why I have a problem with a lot of spirituality, with a lot of all those teachings, with a lot of the abuse of what I would call normal processes, and interpreting them in a way where people try to tell you this is how it is, and you will have to agree with me because deep down you also want that. Yeah, most people want that. Most people want to feel at one with everything, because it's how things were when we were a baby. We were connected to mama. We were surrounded by a warm womb in the uterus of our mama. We were connected to our mama. We felt totally safe at home in mama. And yeah, most of us just instinctively want to go back. There's no problem with admitting to that. You want to go back to your mama. Inside of mama. No, not that way. Revert back to not a baby, but to, technically speaking, a fetus. You will come back and be totally safe again. And this connection to all of that, and then the blissful feeling, is like that. It reminds of the safe haven called the womb, the matrix, so to speak. And we all technically want to go back. Because, let's face it, life sucks. Pain sucks. Being cold sucks. Having pain sucks. Interacting with other people sucks. Having this comfort, this personal but still impersonal comfort of mama watching over you, totally carrying you around, totally safe. Yeah, I would be nice. But thing is, we have to grow up. We cannot ever go back. But we can go to, well, maybe. But, let me say it this way. We can go to the spiritual room everywhere. We can understand that once we die, we go back. We have lived a good life. But we can already connect to it right now. Yeah, I don't believe that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to disappoint you people, but I don't believe that. But I do believe in connecting to the internal room in our brains at times and having fun like that and experiencing like that. I think that's a better way of having enlightenment in that kind of sense, in the connection kind of sense to everything. Because in a sense you're connected to everything you experience. All of what you see, all of what you hear, as I already have demonstrated. Getting to experience that is, if that's enlightenment, come on. Well, it's an enlightenment as in you find out who you are as well, the other parts of you. But here's a damn kicker. Most people will tell you, who have connected to themselves and figured out how to connect to themselves, don't understand that they connect to other parts of themselves. They think they connect to the cosmos. Yeah, it's a cosmos in here, but they don't understand that. They think it's that they actually connect to this thing instead of the representation in their head, which is conscious. Sure. But the thing is, if I look away, all the consciousness that I see is whatever I see. I only can connect to whatever I see, not to what I have previously seen. Or I must recall it again, but I can then see it again and have the recollection and see two of them, which only tells me that, it's all in our head. On all in our heads. And maybe you don't like the message there, if you're more on the spiritual side, the esoteric side. But I know most people don't want to give up the spirituality, the lovey-dovey feelings, the hippy-dippy-wippy, being the hippy-dippy, the dippy-hippy. But yeah. Oh my, I'm rambling on quite long now. But I'm having fun. It's really important. And I really like that this time I've been rambling on for quite some time, but I'm still at the visual consciousness part. Even though I've done some detours. I always do detours. Can go into the whole stuff of algorithms, interconnectedness and feedback loops, and that I think that is the key part to consciousness. Actually I do. This big session is all about connecting to the visual consciousness and the ways that I've done it. And yes, I do recommend meditation for that. The right kind of meditation where you do concentrate visually or auditorily. Sonically, the sonic connection. You can feel sonic. Yeah. So if you're ever moved by a great piece of music, Remember, you are experiencing sonic consciousness, auditory consciousness. If you ever see something and you are totally impressed by it, by its beauty or whatever, you are feeling your visual consciousness. It's always there when you see and hear, but that's when you are actually more sensitive to it and you really feel it, and you can feel it even deeper and deeper. I mean, take a psychedelic drug and find out. Meditate hard enough and find out, and you will see. Yeah, that there's a connection that you can make, and that's a connection that's actually natural and really great for you. Because this is the way we actually have these connections with other people. Normally, that's done automatically. By our brain, where we look at people and our visual cortex automatically interprets that as a certain feeling, emotion, and also, if we concentrate harder, we feel consciousness, but we think that's the consciousness in the other people, but it isn't. It's just our consciousness, visual consciousness, interpreting the faces, the gestures of the people, which have a certain feeling and are more powerful because we are evolutionarily geared to that. That's why it's more powerful for people. That's how we make those connections. By using our brains. By having consciousness translate whatever the signals they are giving visually and in sight and sound. Yeah. And as someone with autism, and having a lot of dissociation, but that system is kind of broken for me. The natural kind of system. So that's why I have some problems connecting to other people. It's also because of the trauma from the past. Me being on the narcissism spectrum. Not the really nasty stuff, but enough to hinder my normal life, to having me interact with people in a more negative way, both from me and from others. And the whole interaction is also, in many cases, either weird or negative, not often positive. And it's also because of the disconnect, traumas, feeling the disconnect, me being tired and being grumpy all the time, being so negative about people because I've been treated like shit in the past, traumas, and being neglected by my mom, also traumas. Oh yeah, now the mystics, all the spiritual, you have traumas and you were disconnected, that's why you see the world as disconnected. Yeah and no. I mean, seeing things like they are is... Trauma can hinder that. True. But just because trauma can hinder that doesn't mean that I cannot see those things as they are. It's something that you will have to find out for yourself. Test it. That's what I say. Test it. There will always be a lot of people who will just dismiss whatever you have to say to them because, oh yeah, but you have this and you have that. Well, if what you're telling them is actually true and they can test it and they can use logic and all kinds of methods, which is a part of the scientific method. No, why not? Just because someone has certain things that make some of the things they say possibly not suspicious, but possibly not true because of the broken state, doesn't mean it has to be broken. Just because it doesn't feel that good doesn't mean it's wrong. Just because something feels really great doesn't mean it's true. That's something that people should know. But it's also like if something is actually beautiful, it doesn't mean it doesn't have to be true. It doesn't mean that it is untrue. And if something's really well, I'm not getting out of my words now, but if something is actually disgusting or really repulsive, it also doesn't mean it is true. It's whatever. In order to find out, you have to test it. You have to find out whether it's true or not. Yeah, but yeah, I've had some trauma, and it did hinder me in the past. And just because I bring something that's not that great to hear for certain people, doesn't mean it's untrue. But it also doesn't mean that that it's automatically true either. It's something that you have to think about and test for yourself. It's simple, actually. You can just look at things and see whether you feel anything. If you do feel a connection, well, voila. But that means that, but I still have my own paradigm. Yeah, but it doesn't mean that your paradigm is actually true or not. But you have your paradigm. It doesn't mean that it isn't true either. It doesn't mean that it's true either. Yeah, that's true. But that's the thing. I'm presenting something new, something that can be tested. And I'm saying that if you feel something in what you see, in what you hear, that's, in my eyes, proof of that you're experiencing the consciousness that produced that feeling. That you've connected to the visual or the auditory consciousness in your brain. And you might think, but, that, I don't like that, yeah, but, yeah, if you really want to believe something that you really want to believe, I cannot convince you. You have to be open for the possibility. But you aren't really open. Well, I was open to some concepts, but it's not that they are totally where I say, oh yeah, it couldn't be ever true. I do say, yeah, it could be true, but personally, I decide, it doesn't satisfy me. It is something that is not, with regards, it's not, it doesn't fulfill what I see, what I feel, what I hear. It doesn't gel with that. What I personally feel and experience. Yeah, there's also some part of what you would call wish fulfillment. I've had so much separateness, so much shit going on in my life that, well, I would like things to be better. I know that certain things, that certain things that I want to have to be, that I might want to be true, would be just wishful fantasies. And having everything be consciousness and me being part of God. Just don't feel it. I'm sorry. And with regards to those who might view people as just soulless philosophical zombies, I also don't believe that. Though I do really lean towards the strongly materialistic side. A materialistic atheist, I would say, or an atheistic materialist, who does believe in consciousness, who does believe in what you would call a soul. But, yeah, not in all kinds of woo and stupid stuff. What even is... Oh, it's a unicorn. Yeah, nice. But anyhow, no. That's how I view my visual consciousness and visual consciousness in general. You see something, there's a visual consciousness, and yeah, that you feel it. The feeling already, in my eyes, that you feel anything already proves in my eyes now that it is conscious. The proof is in the experience. Yeah, we perceive sensations, indeed, and the perception of sensations is consciousness as far as we are concerned. Anyhow, have a nice day, and see you later. Bye.